What is up? It's the Gawdscast. You know how it is. You're with Justin Henry, Daniel Norgard, Isaiah Clay.
Woo!
We all here, baby. How y'all living, man? The season is over. It looks like Clay's technical difficulties are not over. So we'll get him back in when we can, man. But damn,
Yeah.
bro, this has been a hell of a year, a hell of a season. And just one of those, a chance for us to all reflect really on the year it was, fantasy season, fantasy gods. This is coming out of nowhere, man. Talk about it, man. Talk about it. Dan,
Yeah.
go first.
Yeah. Um, you know, just incredible season for the fantasy gods. We came together. We created an idea. We created TikTok, and
It
TikTok's
started with an idea.
started with an idea. That's it. And now we're doing this podcast, and hopefully, we can take this to a new level. And we just out here for the fans. At the end of the day, we're so grateful for the fans, and we just get started, baby. This is year one. Year one,
Yes,
baby.
sir.
Year one.
Year one. We have
That's
that
dope.
Avengers theme in the background. There was an idea.
There
Right?
started with it.
Clay, man, obviously, you know what I'm saying? We started with content. A lot of our early content was like really helpful stuff. And obviously, a big part of our early growth and sign of the countering opinions was when you started dropping those yep nopes, man. Talk a little bit about just early stages fantasy gods and what it's led to now.
I think, it's just the idea of having all this knowledge and bringing it to a platform and giving it to people and understanding the trials and tribulations that we've gone throughout fantasy, throughout all the years we've played, because we've seen so many things and people are like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? And it's just
Right.
like, well, it's a lot of experience behind this. We don't just say stuff just to say stuff. We do it because it's actually something that we got value from. So what took me 5 to 10 years to realize, I'm giving you that flash course. I'm giving you this live and direct. I've been there. Like, hey, you don't need to invest in a number one quarterback initially. You can get a later round quarterback and still be good for the whole year. So, I think some of my content, at the beginning, people called it vanilla or dry, but I think at the beginning of a year, it's hard to like really scoop and tell you exactly who's going to be the number one, the number two guy, unless you're Dan and you get Jonathan Taylor. But
Yeah.
other than
I
that,
mean,
it's
you know,
tough.
it comes natural. No, I was just kidding. That's the thing about fantasy football, man. It's so random. There's so much luck involved, but if you do understand probabilities, and you can kind of research a little bit as far as like talent, and you can kind of see like, okay, like this guy has the probability of maintaining top 10, and basically that's kind of all you want in fantasy. For me, that's kind of the things that I reflect on and learn from, is like, that whoever you pick is probably not going to be the number one guy, but if you can get him in the top 10, then to me, I think that's a win. I think that's an
Mhm.
absolute win. If you get a guy like, for example, you knew Devontae Adams probably not going to be the number one receiver. However, when you pick him in the early rounds, he was going to be a top 10 guy. Like, and he's,
Yeah.
did that. Tyreek Hill, same thing. You knew, like, okay, maybe not be number one, but he's going to be in the top 10 somewhere. So that's kind of things that I learned, is like, I don't need to, hope and pray that this dude's number one. If he is, great. It doesn't matter. But a lot of times it's luck. Debo Samuel
And
and Cooper Cup. I mean, they are not the prototypical like number one receiver that you think of when you think of like number one guys. Like, those guys are undersized. Their roles are different. Usually, like, the number one guy is usually your Devontae Adams, your X receiver on the outside. Like, is not kind of like a smaller gadget player in a sense,
slot
slot
receiver
guy.
type
So
guy.
yeah, and the thing is with PPR, I mean, you've gotten those cool like slot guys that are relevant now.
Yeah.
So it's changing the game. And I don't know exactly when PPR came into play, but it wasn't we didn't start PPR, at least when I started. It
Yeah,
didn't
I
start
didn't.
until like 3 to 4 years after I started playing fantasy, and
Yeah,
it's good
definitely.
now. Good now. I
Yeah,
love PPR.
I actually, I wouldn't go back. I started non PPR years ago, and when I did PPR, I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I fought it. And then when I finally played it, it was such a better aspect, and it brought value to so many more players than your big catch, your big receivers, right? The catch touchdowns. Those
Right.
kind of guys are just like, oh, they only get in the end zone. That's all I want to look for. You're Mike Evans type of player. But shout out to Dexter Hudson, man. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. Like stuff like that. Like you won your league. Like, quality content, things that will help give value to the things that you do or you love to do, which is fantasy football. So
Right.
shout out to you, man. Thanks for supporting us. Thanks for listening to us, because we're not perfect, but we do our best.
Yeah. Clay, talk about this year. What did you learn? What did you win? Did you lose? What happened? What was the whole year like?
My
Give me your
year,
year.
my year was good in terms of money. I won more than I lost, so that's all I can care about. But I didn't win as many championships as I wanted to, or as many as I could have. I made some start mistakes, and it cost me. So I got first, second, and third in my leagues out of 8. I got top 3 and 3, and I'm in 2 dynasty leagues, so those you want to be in striking distance every year in those kind of leagues. So like as long as you can have a roster to continue to get better and better every year, that's the kind of goal you want to have, and then try and make a move towards the end of the year to sustain or get to that top spot so you can win in your championships. But I think I'm going to do better next year. I might be out of some leagues that I didn't pay attention to as much as I should have, and try and focus my energy into some other leagues that I care about more.
Yeah.
What
No,
about you, Dan?
that's good.
How did you do? How were your
Yeah.
leagues? How many were you in? What did you think?
So I was in 8 leagues. Way too many leagues for sure. I'm definitely, like I love fantasy football and it's great, but I just feel like it's too much, man. I kind of like to. I think 5 or less is like my goal next year, and I'm gonna just prioritize and be like, hey, like this is what I want to do, and in dynasty leagues and redraft leagues, auctions, snake. There was a lot. Half the leagues I got to the second round. Most of them I lost in the second round, but got made to the championship in 2 leagues, and obviously won one, Fantasy Gods. And shout out to our league, man. Shout out to our league. Our league was so much fun.
Yeah, that was dope.
Love
We
the
had a
guys
good
that were
group
in
of
our league. Guys watching on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter, man, you guys need to join our league next year. So I can take your money again. But no, I just great group of guys. Really enjoyed that league. And I didn't really. I'm gonna keep real. I didn't learn nothing from that league. At the end of the day, I was super lucky. Going 1 and 2, and then rattling off 14 wins in a row.
I don't know how you did that shit.
Something
Man.
like
crazy.
I don't, and I didn't even have the highest points, or I had second in points, but like it just didn't seem that way. Like it just didn't seem like I was, just getting really lucky. And
Taylor is what happens when you have Taylor.
Hey, I had to get him in the early before the season started, and then I made some good trades. I ain't gonna lie, I did Hunter Renfro for Allen Robinson, Taylor for Keenan Allen,
nothing,
and Antonio Brown for nobody. So it was I made some good deals to strengthen my team a little bit, and I think that was it. I just didn't trade a lot, but the trades that I did make worked out heavily. And of course, having Taylor as someone that I hyped up from the beginning, and to see him go crazy, just kind of just crazy blessing to have that. And it's always nice when you see guys that you root for. I rooted for a lot of guys over the years. I got a ton of crap from you guys. They didn't pan out, and then some guys do, and it's just cool to see that your guys pan out.
Well, I think that's the big thing for most people, and for me, I think over the course of this year, that was the one thing I took away from everybody. Just our interactions with everybody. It's so many people hinge their amount of skill that they have on the success of their fantasy football team. So they're like, okay, if I do well in fantasy football, that means I know what I'm doing. If I don't win at all, which is the precedent that we all set, obviously, if I don't win, that means I don't know shit, or I suck at fantasy, or I'm never playing again. And that's not the case, man. Dan, obviously you know your football shit. You've been wrong about every fucking player that there's been before we started. Clay, you don't know
Right.
shit, and you be winning all the time. So,
Right. Well,
but at the end of the day, it's like we get the comments, we get people like, "Hey, I really need to get this pick. It's week 8," and they'll be like, "Hey, I have to win this matchup. I have to get this player right. This player versus this player. Otherwise, it's a loss of my season." Like, no, it's fantasy football, man. And at the end of the day, you're just trying to be right more often than you're wrong, and be in a position where when playoffs come, you have a chance to win the championship. That's all that matters, man. You're trying to win your fantasy championship. You're trying to win a trophy. And at the end of the day, only one person out of your 10, 12-team league is going to win it, whether it's redraft or dynasty.
Right. That's a great point. I'm gonna hit it on the head with that. For those of you guys who are watching, I've been in a dynasty league I'm gonna bring this up, and I talked about it in the chat. I'm in a dynasty league for 11 years. I've been to the championship 5 times, and I've lost all 5 times. So,
hey, Dan, what's your favorite team?
The Bills. So it just works out, right? It just, hey man, favorite team, favorite fantasy team. So
it's almost not mathematically possible.
It's almost more impressive. So look, and for the people that are watching on YouTube and Twitch and all that, look, just because you don't win the championship, and again, goes back to Justin's point, just because you don't win, as long as you put yourself in a situation, you just let it pan out the way it pans out. I ran into really good teams in the ship. I ran into bad matchups. I ran into injuries. I ran into COVID. Like, there's so many variables that happen, but as long as you just put yourself in a position to win, I know my knowledge. I know my talent, and I know and these guys on the podcast, Clay and Justin, we know our stuff. That's why we give it back to you guys. So just because we don't always win, we don't have to win every championship to know what we're talking about. We just put you in a position to win, and that's what we're doing.
Well, and I think moving forward, that's the kind of content that I know, at least I kind of want to pivot to is, hey, like, I think we've stressed so much on, like, make sure you guys get these players, make sure that this is, this versus this person. I think I also want to stress in some of our content, like, hey, it's fantasy football. A lot of it's luck. We saw out of the top 15 picks, I would say probably 2 or 3 were even top 15 options at the end of the year at the running back position. Like, it's so much luck that's involved in missing injuries and having your players get hot at the right time. Like Tyreek Hill, we talked about it. He was a top 5 wide receiver and went ghost during fantasy playoffs. So at the end of the day, you can only control so much. The teams can only control so much. Even in plush matchups, sometimes players don't perform, and in bad matchups, sometimes they do perform. It's really a 1 week, one type of game situation, and we've seen bad teams in the NFL beat good teams in the NFL. So the same thing kind of happens with fantasy football. Don't get too emotional about it. Don't be too invested in it. Like, at the end of the day, you try to get your top 3, try to get your cash, and that's it, man. End of story.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's what happens. You get to the end and. There's 4 teams left, and you gotta hope for the best. You put your players in a position, you have the best players towards the end, and then whatever happens.
And especially when you're in competitive leagues too, it's like the more competitive your league, the more respect I have for you if you do finish in your top 3, because a lot of times it's you going after other people who are just as sharp as you, if not sharper. Like, sometimes the difference in talent isn't like, hey, you're supposed to win. It's like, nah, you fighting with the sharks. Like, you're trying to win, and everybody has the inside scoop. They have the updates as soon as they come in. They know how much to spend. Like, you're playing with the higher level of competition, it actually makes it harder for you to win your league. So if you're playing with your friends or some people that don't know what they're talking about, like, go dominate those leagues. Have one league where you just go cash, but you also got to have one competitive league that really challenges you, kind of like our Gods League.
Yeah.
So James says, thanks, boys, for the help this year. Even though I went 0-4 in the shit. Oh, man. You guys absolutely killed this year. Just know I'll be ready to crown Dan and wanting all the smoke. God's League 2022 champ.
Let's go.
You coming on, man. And I'm still whooping you. It don't matter, dog. Whenever you get on,
hey,
we're gonna have fun. We're gonna have fun.
It takes a lot to beat the gods.
It takes a lot.
James.
We tried. Y'all tried. They tried to beat us, man.
Everybody tried to come.
and it wasn't meant to be. So,
And I think for us too, guys, like that was why we even got going with a lot of this. I think, like we talked about, Clay, I know you mentioned earlier, like just our combined knowledge. That's what you love to see, where we even had some people early on like, hey, this is my first year playing fantasy, or hey, I've been in leagues before and I never won. I don't remember James's situation, but I know, frequently he would ask like, hey, who should I start this week? And it seems like he went all the way through and was making championship games. So it doesn't matter what level, if you pay attention to the right things, you start learning and you take the right advice. 0-4 in championships. I don't think this time last year he was playing in 4 championships. You can tell me if I'm wrong, James, but I feel like that's the part that I love the most, is that we were able to help, give advice, and kind of curve some of the fantasy football knowledge. Like there's a new wave of challenges for us now.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And it's nice to see people that have never made the playoffs or really don't know what they're doing, or, and they ask us and we get them there. And that's all we try to do, is just put you in a position to win. And like I said, yeah, you probably weren't in 4 championships last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
let us
know in the comments, where were you last year? Before you met us, before you saw us, where were you? And
just by picking our brains in like 1 year, like asking those questions, like getting that knowledge base, like I said, we've accelerated a lot of that learning curve because we've been playing for multiple years. You know what I mean? And so the stuff that I learned in between 0 year and 5 year, we gave it to these people in that amount of time. Like that was quick, like in months. Like, hey, this is a crash course in fantasy, which on real world experience, not just some book. Like this is like real world. This is this year's stuff. This isn't some like canned language. Like this is just right here, live and direct. You're getting straight access and straight knowledge. Like it's dope.
What they don't know is those TikTok posts, those were just funny. Like that was years of pain and L's and wins all bottled up. Like that's why there was so much content coming out from us. We're like, bro, we got to get this shit out. Like,
and we knew Mike Davis was trash. No, we knew. Oh man, like we knew, man. We knew. I'm still harp on that. I'm glad we hit hard on that. There were so many people out there. Oh, Mike Davis, RB2, RB1 upside, this, that, and the other. Man, I'm so happy that we were right.
And you know what's funny is that year to year things can change, right? Like for this year, like Cooper Kupp was the best receiver and the best fantasy player. But like when you look back at some of those past years, like I'll give you an example. Me and Justin were in a league years back, and we went to the draft, and the guy took like 10 minutes on pick number 1. Like, who do I get? And this was when AP was going bananas. He was on the Vikings like every year. This was AP's world. And the guy was like, I'm going to take Andrew Luck. And me and Justin looked at each other with we lit up like Christmas trees. We were like, Andrew Luck, you took a quarterback number 1, blah, blah, blah.
Single quarterback league.
Single quarterback league. Dude, we were falling out. But this dude it was the year Andrew Luck went bananas, like hammer time. Like he went hard. And it was the best number 1 pick ever to be drafted. It was the craziest. And so you just never know. That's why, like, sometimes we just put you in a position. But, I mean, to say that whoever's going to be the true number 1 in a fantasy year, it could change year to year, man. It all depends on opportunity, health, schedule. Everything matters when you're talking about these top players.
That was probably 2014. Andrew Luck, 4,700 yards and 40 touchdowns.
Yeah,
bro,
number 1 player in fantasy.
Number 1 player in fantasy, bro. Man. It was the craziest thing. It was funny, but
he had to get his guy, I guess.
And at the end of the day, it's like sometimes that's the thing too. Just like you got your guy, Dan. Sometimes you just gotta get your guy at the time, man. And for me, like this year, I was dead ass wrong about Saquon, but that was my guy. It was like ride or die with him, and obviously that shit didn't work out.
I think it was more the team than the talent, right? Like I feel like Saquon still has the ability and the talent, but it's hard to judge that when they're on such a team the Giants are just really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So James had been playing for 12 years and made it to 2 ships, only won 1, and last year went 10-6, finished 3rd place, lost in the semis. So, I mean,
more than doubled.
Yeah, I mean, more than doubled your 2 ships that you've been. So in 1 year, you made it to 4 ships. then 12 years you made it to 2. Hey man,
My God,
this is what
James
we're
went and got
doing. This is what
himself.
we're
You know what I'm
doing.
saying? He's like, oh, I can challenge
Hey.
the gods now. I'm in 4 ships. These guys don't know shit. I see you, James.
Hey, keep watching. We still got more. We got more up our sleeves, bro. We still got more.
So what's next? So I think it'd be kind of cool to talk about like what's next for us. Obviously, this fantasy year for most people is over. If you guys have questions about your fantasy teams this week, drop them in there. We'll help you as best as I can. But week 18 playoffs suck. So we'll get to them if we can. But I think what would be kind of cool is to talk about what's next for Fantasy Gods. Obviously, fantasy football doesn't really get started for us until free agency, the draft, like those kind of things, mini camp, training camp. That's when it really, gets hot for us. But some cool things we got going on, obviously, that's redraft. Dynasty is always going. So Dan's going to be talking a lot about the college players coming out. And Clay and I also, have had an extensive history of betting on the NBA, playing fantasy hoop, doing well in fantasy hoop.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to make an extension of that, maybe an episode, a podcast or something, coming here very soon to Fantasy Gods. So let us know if you guys are tuning in. I don't know how many people are tuning in. But if you guys are tuning in, let us know your guys' thoughts on Dynasty content, Fantasy NBA content. If you guys want to get into God's Fantasy NBA League, we're going to open that up very soon. But a lot more to come with Fantasy Gods. It's not just fantasy football redraft. We got a lot more coming your way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Fantasy Gods, man, we have a ton of other things to do. And shout out to James. Of course, Dak's not throwing for that. We knew that. We knew that for a fact.
I mean,
the fantasy alpha.
That wasn't even a question. Like, I mean, think about what you're saying. Like, and you said it in the podcast. Like, do you realize what you're saying? He's going to throw for 6,000 yards and 60 touchdowns. Like, that just doesn't even make any sense.
Well, what's funny was like you say that, but then you say in another video, you say Lamar Jackson's better. Like, so Lamar was going to throw for 7,500 yards and 80 touchdowns. Like, what? I mean, come on, man. Like, if you got a guy that's going to break records, at least rank him number 1. Like, if you're going to do that, like, if you really, really believe that, like, rank him 1.
I think that kid doesn't believe a thing that comes out of his mouth. He just says whatever he can for views. That was one of the only takes I really believe he thought like Dak was going to break records, but I think he just doubled down on it, which made him sound like a total clown because he was like, no, he will break records. Like that was the part that made. But if you look at that guy's account, he's a troll account. We interacted for way too long. Obviously, there's a lot of other things on that kid's mind outside of just fantasy football and helping you guys out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, thanks for a shout out for that comment. That's a comical one that we're probably gonna reflect on in the years to come. But it is what it is.
It is what it is. And I think for us guys too, like one thing that we can bring value wise is an earlier draft kit. Like I think we pulled the draft kit a little late this year. It was like 3 weeks, a week into the 4 weeks into the season starting, and you can expect an earlier draft kit. We got merch. If you watching right now and you want some Fantasy Gods merch, we got merch coming very soon. There's an early link right now in our bio. We'll have some gear here very soon, but you can go check it out right now. Link is in the bio. And we also got some partnerships we're working on too to bring you guys exclusive type of content and exclusive type of promotion. So just be on the lookout. We're just getting started. Gawdscast will still go every Thursday, every Tuesday. Obviously no start sit, but try to give you guys as much content as we can, man.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. If you guys are watching and listening, man, what do you guys want to see from us? We're open to whatever the people want, man. The people want. We're out here to give you guys what you need. So if you guys want Dynasty info, more of it, let me know. If you guys just want strategy when it comes to auction leagues, like what is the strategy? What is the strategy for Snake? Let us know. Like I'm open. Like just let me know. I'm gonna do my own thing, and if Justin or Isaiah want to hop on with Dynasty, we'll go with that and kind of our strategies of how we attack the off season and what classes to look for. Like what are we attacking 2022 rookies or are we fading them? So there's tons of other things that are going to be on. I'm going to be doing more of that like during like the combine stuff. Like I don't normally get into Dynasty until about that time because then once I get the combine numbers, then I'll be able to tell you guys how I evaluate specifically running backs because that's my favorite one to evaluate. But But yeah, let us know
And
what you guys need.
it's been a heavy year. So if you guys are noticing maybe a slight drop off in content production, just know there's more on the way. But it's been a grueling season I know fantasy players has been already kind of stressful. For us as content creators and making sure we have the right information to give you guys too and keeping up to date in our first year, really just kind of putting this thing on since just a couple milestones before we get into James's thing. So we're at 24.2 thousand followers on TikTok since June. We started up a YouTube channel mid-season YouTube channel. We're at almost 150 subs. If you guys are part of that, thank you very much. We are now Twitch affiliates. We are at 83 followers right now, I think, as the moment I checked last night. And then on Twitter, we're almost at 300 followers now on Twitter, and we rarely post on there. So guys, appreciate you guys being part of this community. Over 30,000 across. If you're looking across the board, that's damn near 30,000 followers across all boards, man. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Talk about this shit all the time, man. I know it's going through my mind all the time.
Yeah,
definitely.
No, it goes through my mind. I mean, just to start it off, I mean, especially TikTok. I mean, I never would have thought that we were there. I never would have thought that we would have multiple videos that did over 1 million views. Like that's, I mean, incredible. And we're up there with the big accounts now. I mean, we used to be 9X, but now 5.8
or so. 4X, 5X now.
4X, 5X now. So we used to be 9. So that's all I got to say about that.
That's dope. It's just all about the growth, man. And like Dan said, just for here for the people. It'd be cool
to double down on some of this hoop content too, man. Because we're all, I'm a big hoop fan. Dan played hoop. Clay played hoop. We all hoopers too. So even if you don't have the best fantasy advice, Dan, sometimes you got to hop on and talk hoop with us too, man.
All right, it's good.
Obviously, I got the other just
I'll be there for moral
podcast,
support.
But I think dialing in on the fantasy aspect of it, the betting aspect of it is going to be what takes us over the top here. So additional hoop content coming on the way too.
Yeah. Definitely. And dynasty stuff, I'll be with you too, Dan, because I got 2 dynasty leagues I'm in that I'm always trying to get better. I always need to sharpen my knives and just go to work, and dynasty is a year-round sport, so there's no days off. I mean, as soon as the championship ends, you're back to the grind, you're back to getting deals done, you're back to trading players and dropping players, and it never ends. So I love dynasty. I mean, I've played it now, this is my 3rd or 4th year, so I got 1 ship under my belt, so this is exciting. So I'm ready to keep going and expand my knowledge base and learn from you because you've been in it for 11 years. So I can always learn something new.
Definitely.
I don't know. I'm 2 years into Dynasty. I was 2 ships in Dynasty, 1 championship, 1 runner-up. So I might not know all Dynasty, but I know a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, there's different strategies. Justin's strategy is win now. Now. Get your money now and then coast, and if you want to rebuild, go from there. But there's definitely different strategies. You have to take into consideration your league and the league mates, and we can get into all of that during a podcast, dynasty specific podcast. But yeah, a lot of it is just knowing your league mates, is knowing who likes to deal, who values picks more than they value their players. Who values older guys, who doesn't value older guys, and it just it just takes a long time. It doesn't take 1 year to figure out dynasty. It doesn't take 2 to 3 years. It takes a good 5 years for one league to kind of figure out, and it's tough. You really got to track your stuff. You really got to know your league mates. So, but it's fun.
I like the projecting aspect of it, where maybe a player isn't great this year, but you can see promise in them and hold them, and then in year 2 or 3. They ball out, and now you got this stud that's oh man, this dude is really actually that dude now. So it actually paid off to hold him or trade for him. So I do appreciate that as dynasty. It's like investing early, and then hopefully you get a big gain. So
yeah, absolutely. But other than that, man, we're still rolling. We're gonna be rolling out content and podcasts, especially podcasts, man. I enjoy get online and talking to people that, hey, if they got questions, we got answers. And if you guys, I mean, we're open to anything you guys want. And hey, man, we may even have some guests on the podcast. We need some guests, man. I think we can't just be doing that ourselves, man. We got to get back to the fans We need
It's a
to
good idea.
we need to do that. I think we need to get somebody that wants to be on and wants to do it.
I think having
On
guests, other content creators too, because obviously we came out kind of swinging against a lot of other content creators, but in this mix too, we've also met some really good content creators, some really good fantasy analysts, if you want to call them, in the meantime. So I think it would be good to kind of mix and match with them too. One of the guys that I want to shout out, P2W Fantasy, man, he's all over the shit, bro. Like he's not really even that big on TikTok, but on Twitter. But his calls are gnarly, man. Like he's very good at what he does. So there's some people I think that we can get on this channel, the show, that need some respect, man, that are also in the same realm they're almost in the same realm as the guys, I should say.
Almost,
I like that.
So,
almost.
Hey, how many people we got on right now? We have anybody like?
I got 3 people.
3. Hey, so if you guys are watching right now, and there's a specific saying that you like on a shirt, let us know, because we're gonna come out with another drop here very soon. But make sure y'all go get the merch. Subscribe to all the channels. I'm gonna plug this shit, man, until we can't no more. Now it's plug-in season. We gave y'all the love for free, man. Now it's plug-in season. If you've been messing with us for the whole year, we helped y'all out, man. This is the way you can get back to us and to the Fantasy God community, man. Join the Discord, join the social media channels, man. We here for it all.
Yeah,
man. The Discord goes crazy, bro. That's a really big avenue to get our info out there, because there's so many people that may not be able to catch a live or catch a podcast that they come on and can text and let me talk to you about XYZ. What's this guy? It starts. And so the Discord, I enjoy. I like that. You get to touch a lot of different people from a lot of different areas. So shout out to our Discord. Shout out to the people on there that come on and support every day. So thanks for that.
Yeah. What's let's just, hey man, I'm interested, man. Who's winning the Super Bowl? We need to who we predicting, man? Who you got?
Man,
Clay, I'm gonna start with you, man. Who do you?
Before we get on the playoff predictions, the Discord is crazy, because it's not only a good source for you during the fantasy season, but there's also dynasty content. There's other off-topic information. There's been friendships, legit friendships being made. People live next to each other. So it's been really cool to kind of see some of the friendships, some of the enemies that have been built in there. It's almost like its own little community, man, where not only do we get fantasy tips before things pop off sometimes, but there's also just life things that happen there too. So if you just like dope conversation, you want to get involved and want to have maybe some leagues next year, these guys are opening leagues all the time, free, smaller leagues, money leagues. It's worth the join.
It's dope.
Yeah, definitely get on a
Super
Discord.
Bowl. Man, yeah. Super Bowl. Who do I have, man?
Who's the Super Bowl?
This is tough. I'm just gonna give you my Super Bowl teams who I think will go there first, and then I'll try to decide to see who will win once they get there. I think of the teams that are left, I like Buffalo from the AFC to make it, and in the NFC, I can't fade Tom, baby. Tom is doing it with dudes you haven't even heard of. He hasn't. I mean, I can't fade Tom Brady, man. He's got to make it back to the Super Bowl, and I think it's going to be a nice Super Bowl game with that defense that the Bills have and that the defense that the Buccaneers have. So, give me that game in a big shootout. I'll take Josh Allen to beat the Hall of Famer, the great Tom Brady, for this year's Super Bowl.
Man, hey. I mean, how could that would be the greatest thing ever, but it's my Bills, and of course they're going to lose. Of course they're not going to do anything, man. I mean, they're in the 4th seed right now. They got to play if the playoffs started today, they play at home against the Patriots, who they smacked the other night. Obviously, Patriots exposed them first game, and then the Bills took care of business the next game. So, toss-up game in that one. I guess if it's me, I kind of want to see the Bengals, man. I want to see the Bengals go far, and to see them be horrible for years and years and years. You see these 2 LSU boys get in there, and T. Higgins is all there too. I'd like to see the Bengals in the NFC, AFC, and then in the NFC, man. I hate to say it, but I still want to see the Cowboys, man. I want to see them. Let's push it, man. I want to see the Cowboys go, man. So,
trust me, Dan. I watch them.
I know they're probably not going to
week.
win, but
I watch
want
them
to see
every
it.
week.
Clay's a dedicated Cowboys fan.
I'm not, but I'm married into the family, so they're not making it.
I mean, Clay's got to have a team. We're tired of this shit. Like,
Well,
you
Super
can't just
Bowl,
not have a
man,
team, bro.
I like what the Bengals are doing. I think they're not ready yet. You always have to go through that 1 year where you kind of struggle through it. You take a bad L that you should have won. I'm not counting the Bengals in there. And I like how Clay is hopping on the Josh Allen bandwagon now after fading him all year.
All year faded.
All year.
All
saying
year.
Josh Allen.
Like how?
Every this and that. But now he loves Josh Allen. I'm not fading Pat Mahomes. I cannot fade Pat Mahomes in the AFC. The defense is looking okay. They got exposed a little bit by the Bengals, but I also think they'll get back. And in the NFC, I would have picked the Bucks. That would have been my pick had Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin been 100% in the fold. I think I'll have to change that now. My pick instead has got to be the Green Bay Packers. Front runner, 101. I'm going with the Packers, the MVP, Aaron Rodgers. I think he pulls it out over the Kansas City Chiefs.
Hey, I like it. I like it. Hey, but back to Josh Allen. I'm just saying he is the number 1 QB and the number 2 rated overall player in fantasy this year. So, how are we fading this guy? How do we fade Josh Allen?
Hey, I put him. I said that I put Josh Allen in the Super Bowl.
I'm talking about fantasy, dog. I'm talking about fantasy. Like, this is a fantasy god channel, and we're fading a god in Allen. How do we do that? All year.
I was texting you guys. I never actually faded Josh Allen. Just
that
for the record.
Reverse psychology.
I was just talking about him every week because
how
he
was
started
trash.
out throwing picks and dropping the ball, and then he come back with 4
matter.
touchdowns and
it
300 yards.
Matter. The Rock said it doesn't matter, dog. It doesn't matter.
No, I know. Josh Allen's that dude. He's on my dynasty team.
Hey.
So, when I lose, I win. And when I win, I win. The Clay motto.
Facts.
Clay motto.
Let's go.
That's where the vanilla comes in, dog. That's where the vanilla comes
I got my vanilla ice cream. I'm ready to eat it.
As
long as it wins. As long as it wins me money. Let's go.
Did it win you in fantasy gods? No.
I didn't have Josh Allen.
Yeah, that's true.
So what are we thinking about a couple players? Let's kind of brainstorm a couple players before we get off. What are we thinking about their draft value, right? So one player that was a league winner, not just the term, he's a league winner, it was legit a league winner, was Amon-Ra St. Brown. You had him, you were probably winning your league. Where are we putting him? Is he going to be like, Dan, I got an interesting one I saw on Twitter for you.
All right.
Would you rather have Amon-Ra St. Brown or Michael Thomas heading into next year?
Are we we're talking about redraft? Dynasty? That's a good question. Because to me, it all depends on the health of Michael Thomas, number one. Like, let's put this out there 100%. Like, number one, is he healthy? On Twitter, it's hard to read that guy.
We're talking right now.
I know.
Right now, knowing everything we know.
For me, everything we know in Dynasty, I got to go with St. Brown. Just because he's younger. He's 22 years old. He'll be 23 by years in next year. And with receivers, they're good until they're about 30, 31 years of age. That's usually what it is. Now, Michael Thomas is almost 29. He'll be 29 and a half during the season, and he's coming off injury. But he is talented. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say he's not one of the best receivers in the league when he's healthy. Like, he is a beast. He's a stud. Like, you're going to get top, if he's healthy, in my opinion, you're going to get top 10 value, if not higher. From Michael Thomas. Yeah. And I don't really care who the receiver is or the quarterback. I think because of Mike Thomas's position in the slot, he's called the slant boy. Like, he will get points like Cooper Kupp. Not worried about Michael Thomas. And I think Michael Thomas has good 2, maybe 3 years. But in Dynasty, again, it's how you evaluate. It's how you evaluate. Do when you're playing Dynasty, are you in a 1 to 2 year window? Okay, I'll take it back. So it depends. So if you in a dynasty league and you have a team that's designed to win it all, I'm trading St. Brown for Mike Thomas today. if you're in a situation in which you're going to win it all within in the next year, at least next year, like in 2022, are you positioned to win? I'll trade St. Brown for him. But if I'm not in a position to win, and all things are zero, I'm going to take St. Brown, just because of the upside. I'm just going to take the long-term upside. Give me a guy that has really shown that he's transitioning to the NFL. He's got that under his wing, and he doesn't need a quarterback. He's gonna score. He's a playmaker. So
Yeah,
I
see,
don't.
I
I
don't
think.
know. I
I
guess
think
that's a conversation for another day because I always think about the hot player versus buying low versus buying high or selling high, buying low. And to me, that was like a clear cut. Okay, I think everybody is overvaluing Amon-Ra St. Brown right now and undervaluing Michael Thomas long term. But maybe I'm wrong in that, just depending on, like you said, the health. But to me, that's one of those buying opportunities. I look at that as like, okay, that's a clear buying opportunity right now where you get a player like St. Brown who's the rookie. He has the height. We know receivers tend to normally, unless you're Justin Jefferson, tend to struggle a little bit in that second year. So for me, I would go clear cut Michael Thomas, but that Saints offense ain't the same as we're used to either.
I think I'm fading Mike Tom at this point in his career. He hasn't played in almost 2 years. St. Brown is we've seen the upside, right? He's flashed it. Even if he doesn't live up to that, I would rather take that investment for the next 5 to 7 years than to try to like squeeze out whatever value Mike Thomas might have when he comes back. If he comes back, and if he comes back to the Saints, there's a lot of unknowns with Mike Thomas at this point. So that's just my 2 cents.
Well, like I said, it just goes back to how is your team structured and how is it designed? Is it designed to win now? Because if it's designed to win now, go get Mike Thomas. Like, yes, I'm all on the bandwagon of buying. And you may get Mike Thomas and for St. Brown right now. And if that's the case, then that might be the play, because I think that, like I said, or Justin was saying, you got the hot rookie. St. Brown, I think, is the ultimate sell high in Dynasty, because I think you can get a lot for him, because again, he's a rookie. He's playing on the Lions. He's playing with a horrible quarterback, and he was still producing, and he's only 22. And I think that you can get a lot for St. Brown right now. So if you can get Mike Thomas in a first, which I think is somewhat fair, like in the realm of fair as far as the trade goes, and you may have some league mates. Why not?
Hey, real talk.
I'm not giving up a first.
I hope that Mike Thomas carries a little bit more value like that, but it also kind of gives me like pause to think about it. Okay, what about a guy like Saquon? Where are we putting him? Like, is he going to be now in that Tony Pollard type range, where somebody may want the upside with Tony Pollard and not want the downside of Saquon? Like, to me, that kind of, and I know this is probably, like I said, a whole combo for another day, but to me, there's probably people out there who would be like, I want Tony Pollard more than I want Saquon Barkley right now.
Yeah, I could see that. And no, I'm not fading Saquon. Give me Saquon Barkley over Tony Pollard. 100 over 100. I'm not. Yeah, Saquon is only 24, and the Giants got to get better. They're horrible this year, and they only have that. It's only up from here, man. So, and honestly, last game Saquon looked pretty good. I thought he looked good.
100. He had the hardest 100 you'll ever see.
The hardest 100 you'll ever see. But I thought he looked good. So give me Saquon Barkley. I still have him in my in the top 5, top 7 range for Dynasty, and probably he'll probably crush that next year. And I'll change my mind and rank him in the top 3 or something like that, because he's just that talented, man. He's just that good.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
His talent is undeniable. He is a very talented player, running back. We just seen that he is on a bad team. Their quarterback situation's in disarray. The offensive line isn't great. The receivers can't stay healthy. It's just everything that can go wrong does go wrong on the New York Giants at this point.
Yeah.
So
in Week 4 against New Orleans, he had 126 yards, 2 touchdowns. That was 30 points. So there was a game, like his life is there. Like he's there, like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's not dead yet.
Yeah.
He's not
No.
dead yet.
I think some people are early to like fade him and like maybe next year. analysts will probably jump over and be like, "Look,
I think he's going to go in the second round.
washed."
I think he's a second round guy. I'd be
That's fair.
shocked if he goes in the first round, but I think he's in the second round, and I think that's value town. I think he's Joe Mixon of 2021. I think he's going to be a second round value, late second round value, mid second round value. I think he's going to be the Joe Mixon of
he'll slip in a lot of drafts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's going to be Joe Mixon. I'm going to put it out there right now. Week 18, he's going to be the Joe Mixon of 2021. So
Aaron Jones might be there too.
All right, guys, I got a question for you. I'm going to pose to you. What improvements do you want to make for next year in terms of how you draft, the way you draft, the how you assess talent? What's something that you can improve upon? How do you get better? How do you get better from here? I know we're all gods. We all know what we're talking about. But how do you get better? How do you take the next step in the evolution?
Yeah.
I think for me, the biggest thing that I didn't do this year was that I didn't get the guys I wanted. Like in auction league, sometimes I go and I draft players purely on value as opposed to just getting the guys that I want. And I think there's more value in getting the players that you want outside of getting players of value. So, for example, if, and this is typically something I preach against is, I always do best player available. Well, best player available isn't always available when you need them most in playoff weeks, unfortunately. So I think you have to go get the guys that you want, because even more so than like running back, or zero RB, what you want to do is identify the players that you really think are going to have breakout years. So, for example, Dan really liked Jonathan Taylor. Go get him before you take somebody else that you don't want just because they slipped and fell on the ranking sheet. So I think for me personally, I'm going to stop going against like auction values and ranking values and kind of just trust my instincts, whether it's a little bit off or not.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's a good one. I think for me, it's just more or less just learning from my mistakes, learning like why did I know? Yeah, being a champion, what mistake? Come on, I don't make any mistakes.
No mistakes.
No mistakes. Yeah, 14 wins in a row. I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But I think for me, it's just looking back and looking at like, hey, why did I draft this guy that sucked? Like, and to start looking back at it like, okay, why did I draft him? And what went wrong? Like, was my process bad on this guy, or was it a different circumstance? So I got to figure out like different things. Like, is he trash, or was the situation trash? And if the situation was trash, why was it trash? And try to figure out like, so that I don't do it again next year. Like for example, I'm going to throw this out there. There's two guys for me, and it's Allen Robinson and Laviska Shenault, right? So are those players, and I have to dive deep into and start looking at advanced metrics and stats, but are those guys trash, or was the situation trash? And if the situation was trash, how do I not repeat that for next year? So when things come in, like I think Allen Robinson, right? For example, I think he's great. I think he's a great talent. But the situation was horrible for him. He's just not, I mean, the type of receiver that he is, matched with the rookie, matched with Dalton. And I mean, there's so many variables. Like, do I want to go through that next year with a different player? Let's say, who's the worst teams out there? I got to look at this. So
to me, like Jaguars,
like Houston, right? Okay, Houston was a bad team. Okay, so Brandon Cooks, right? So Brandon Cooks had a good year, but now he's another year older. He's probably going to have a rookie top QB coming in. Do I draft a guy like that? He's kind of in that Allen Robinson situation, or the Denver Broncos. They were bad. They may have a rookie. They may trade up for a rookie, and now it's like Judy. Okay, so is he good? Is he bad? Like there's so many. To me, there's just those factors. I think it's just like
it's hard though to tell like that from this point of view, right? Because the Broncos were supposed to have Teddy Bridgewater, which he didn't do bad in New Orleans the year before. And I mean, the Jaguars had Trevor Lawrence come in, and he was supposed to make that team a little bit better. And so, I mean, I think it's easy on this side of it to say, oh, this offense was bad, this offense was bad, this offense was bad. But, looking at it into the season, you're trying to give yourself hope and upside and try and project to see who the best player possible is. And even on bad teams, you can still have good players. Like we said, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he was on a bad team, but he was a good fantasy player. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, like it's hard to avoid those pitfalls because then at the end of drafts, you're trying to look for that, right? Like that's what you're trying to look for because obviously everybody on Kansas City, everybody on the Buccaneers, everybody on the Bills is gone. So now you have to try to find gold in soot, right? Like you got to try to find some guys that you can throw out there and say, hey, maybe they'll have value. Maybe I'll have a guy like who's the guy on the Patriots that was the receiver. God, I'm forgetting his name.
Which one, Myers?
Miller.
Myers, yeah, and he had some games where he played well, but he was pretty consistent throughout the year. And even on a team that was good, the offense for fantasy wasn't necessarily always great. So, I mean, I don't think you should kick yourself as that hard to say, hey, I'm going to avoid these situations because it's hard when you get, especially when you get down to the nitty gritty, right? Now you got to like find these players and be like, man, who's going to give me some upside? Who's going to give me some opportunity to get points on the board? And so I don't think you should kick yourself. I mean, situations in football change so rapidly and year to year. So, but yeah, go ahead, Justin.
I think it's tough to go back and look at like, did I miss or was it injuries? Because there's injuries that are part of it. There's new players. There's other players that get hurt that become now a part of your situation too. If X player goes down, now your player's value may have increased more, or there's just so many different variables year to year that it is tough to go back and look at a draft and say, hey, this is where I did well, this is where I faded. I think the one thing that I would say is make sure you get the guys that you absolutely want. So when you look at it, you're saying, okay, I lost with the guys I thought were going to be good. Like, do your homework before the draft. Make sure you identify key players that you want to get. Don't wait too long on them and attack. Because you can find replacement players. You can find Band-Aids later in the year. I've always kind of gone with value, and I feel like value this year was a little overrated in the draft.
Absolutely. And, I mean, there were some players where that kind of snuck up, right? Their value either outplayed their value, like their play outweighed their value, and then some people's value outweighed their actual play. So, I mean, like a Deebo Samuel, he wasn't touted very high because he couldn't stay healthy. And he ended up being a top 5 receiver, I believe. And, he helped people win their leagues.
Yeah.
And it all boils down to that luck factor, too, because you mentioned a player like Mike Williams early on in the season. You thought, yep, he's going to be my league winner. He's going to be a wide receiver, too, for the rest of the year. And then fantasy playoffs come, he wasn't part of your roster. So it's tough to gauge that because at one moment you could be looking like a king because you're like, hey, I got to steal the draft, and then they get hurt or they get COVID or they just fall off in weeks 14, 15, 16, 17, and you're left with your hands in the air.
Yep, and football's so volatile, right? Like you're not necessarily week to week, but you try and have the guys that stay the most consistent as possible. So, when you have a guy like Mike Williams and he went 4 weeks where he was in double digits, over 20 points, and then the next 4 weeks was like feast or famine. You were trying to get some points out of this guy, and it just wasn't there. So, I think that's great. I mean, Dan, if that's what you look for, I'm down. I want to listen too. If you have some tips on next year's teams that you don't think they'll produce, I want to know too because I don't want to draft them cats either.
Well, okay, I'm going to ask you guys a question then. What's one player next year that you cannot leave the draft without? Who's going to be that guy? Who's going to be that guy for y'all? Like that, I'm not leaving the draft without. I need that guy on the squad. I don't care what the cost is.
I'm gonna preface this because it was the same guy this year in a lot of my drafts. Given his scenario doesn't
Jarvis
change,
Landry.
and hell no. Given his situation doesn't change, and given that his quarterback stays, it's Devontae Adams, man. He is if him and Aaron Rodgers, wherever they're at, if they're together, I want Devontae Adams. Like that, I mean, that connection, whatever they got, whatever happens, I think somebody like him, a receiver like him, a player like him, is just I can't leave the draft without him. And whatever it costs, auction wise, if I have to gamble, take the first pick, 2 picks, whatever away, I gotta get Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I think my guy is going to be a bit of a homer pick, but I think it'll be worth it. And this guy might get the Jalen Hurts treatment where I'm taking him in the 9th or 10th round. But Trey Lance is coming home next year. Trey Lance will be on the squad. I feel like he's just one of those guys. Has the arm, has the legs. And normally I'm not a big QB guy, but I will be investing heavily in anything Trey Lance after the 5th round.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think for me, it's probably DeAndre Swift. I absolutely love DeAndre. I think he has a chance to be like super special, and hopefully the Lions can trend upwards. I always like to root for those horrible teams. That's just me.
I
the
can't get behind
the Lions.
I can't get behind the Lions.
The Browns, man. I love it.
They haven't had 1,000-yard back since Reggie.
The cool thing about DeAndre Swift is he's as far as running backs go, he has one of the top metrics in the land, and that's yards created per touch. And he is one of the only people that has over 58% of opportunity share. So that means carries and catches. And he's the only back to have over 4 yards created per touch in the league. So he pretty much dominated with the touches. I think his opportunity share goes up from this year. And if you have consistent yards created per touch, you're going to see a lot of fantasy points. So I like DeAndre Swift. I think he has the potential to be the number 1 running back next year.
Note taken.
Take the notes, man. All right. So what do you guys want to do? Are we done? We wrapping it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up, man. Yeah, you guys, thanks for following us. YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. We weren't on TikTok because we don't need TikTok, man. Not today. But we appreciate you guys. For those of you guys who are watching, man, appreciate you guys. Tons more for Fantasy Gods coming. And what a year, man. What a year. And I'll be back defending the title, man. Y'all need to come take it, baby. Y'all need to come take it, bro. Take the title from me.
We're going to be rocking with y'all all off season, man. This is going to be a fun time to be a part of the Fantasy God community. We got some stuff, man. Obviously, with what we do, I work in marketing. These guys got personalities too. Like you're working with some of the best. So it's going to be some fun. It's going to be some challenging. Going to be some informational, but you're going to get it all. So just be prepared. Know that there's a lot more coming. We just getting started, baby.
Yep.
Absolutely. Peace.